Okay, well, welcome to the January 16th, 2024 session of Clementine Radio, Tangerine Radio, and Hamside Technical Session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and let's see, I've been trying to keep well, I have added a few things. I have both a VHF K9Q radio running and, of course, the HF with Whisper Demon. So keep those running and trying to work on some other code. I had one couple, about a month ago, I had one NAS crash. And so I'm putting it back. And one thing I mentioned to Nathaniel is I really appreciated Tom's talk last week. And I want to make a offer to anybody that wants to do like a 10-minute talk to our group. That would be a great thing. I have several people in mind that could do talks, but if somebody's burning to give a talk like Tom did, I really appreciated that. And I think we ought to encourage that as a point of discussion. So that's it for me. Next on the list is Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thank you, Dave. I've spent a lot of the past week working on managing the different projects, meeting with people, making sure things are on going in the right direction. One of the things that was nice was I met with both Kung and with John Gibbons last week, and I got to see some of the very first data from the Grape 2. So I can say that's going along. I got Kung to generate some spectrograms for me. I did find some aliasing in those spectrograms, but I met with John Gibbons about it, and I think they were able to identify where the aliasing problem was. So I haven't totally seen that get resolved, but he seemed confident. So hopefully over the next week or so, we'll see that go in the right direction. But it's very exciting to see it actually working and to actually start to see some data from that. So it's really good. Let's see. And then the other thing I'm really working on right now is I'm trying to do a push to get this another geophysical research letters paper done about the traveling atmospheric disturbances project that I'm going on. I was telling Dave before the meeting, I'm pretty excited about this paper because before I've shown that the medium scale traveling atmospheric disturbances are associated with the polar vortex, and now I can show that the large scale traveling atmospheric disturbances are also influenced by both the polar vortex and the aurora. And before it was basically just said that, oh, it was the aurora that was doing it only, but so this is kind of new result, and I'm using ham radio data to show it. So this paper, I've just got to keep pushing along with all the little details of it to get it through to publication, and it'll happen. But boy, there are a lot of details to get put in a row. So other than that, just working, have some personal life stuff going on, but it's all moving in a good direction. So back to net.
Very good. Next on the list, we have Tom, N5EG. You're at the top of the list tonight.
How did that happen? How did that happen? I've been working on decoders for KA9Q radio. And I've got the whisper decoding working fine, both from the command line and as a service. I've not been able to get FT4 and FT8 decoders to work. And the error it's throwing is that I'm missing an executable called decode underscore FT8. And I've looked through Phil's documentation and haven't found any reference to that. If anyone knows the software I need to do that, I'd appreciate it. I've got WSJTX installed, which of course is what Whisper Demon uses to run its decode, but haven't figured out how to get FT8 and FT4 to decode. So that's about it for the week.
Tom, where I point you is look at JT decode. Okay. And Phil combined Whisper decode and the FT8 decode. And he put all the code in one file, and then he stopped working on that because he started working with Rob on the Whisper Daemon part. And so I don't think he's ever gotten back to it, but there was a couple of months ago he did that.
Okay, I looked at his commit messages from last week, and he indicated in the commit messages that he may have had FT4 working. And so I tried to invoke those from the service menu in the K9Q program. And the JT decode, I don't know how to invoke it from JT decode. Every time I try to invoke it, it just errors out.
Yeah.
Some parameter error.
Well, it's probably still rough code.
Okay. All right.
I'm-
Well, maybe next time Phil's on here, we'll ask him and he can point us in the right direction.
Tom, just for your information, I did get APRS working, and it's a 3-step process. So, so you have to have 3 decoders in a row.
What is PRS?
APRS.
Oh, APRS. Got it. Okay.
Yes. There is no example in the GitHub right now, but I did get it working. So if somebody needs to know how to do it, I can explain it.
Yeah, that would be something great. I haven't tried it yet, and I'll send you an email. Maybe you can give me some
Okay.
fingers.
Sure. Next on the list, we have Jim, K4BSE. Go ahead, Jim.
Good evening all. Sorry, I was running a little bit late. I'm still trying to get caught up from all the holidays. And my wife had her shoulder replaced, so she's kind of out of commission a lot now. So that means I'm taking care of her as well as doing my own stuff. And I was sick last week myself, got a bad scare, but it turned out to be nothing. And so I'm back whole now and trying to get back in the groove. I've decided this is the year I've just got to get serious about digital mode. So I'm starting to work on digital modes now and try to make myself get better on that. Also, I have agreed to do a program for our local club on Hamsai and what's going on. That'll be the end of May. And so I'll be, as I get into that, I would like to start looking over all of the references and see what kind of material I want to lift for it, obviously with credits and getting permission to do that. Haven't gotten that far yet, but I hopefully will be starting to work on that fairly soon. Back to net K4BSE.
Very good. Next on the list is Phil. We were just talking about you, Phil.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I just got on. I'll be on for a few minutes before I have to go to the microwave club meeting.
Okay. Well, Tom wanted to ask you a question about, well, go ahead, Tom. You asked.
And I have a
Yeah.
question too for Phil.
Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, I've been
Go ahead.
really out of things for traveling and shaking this really long flu, and we lost our cat today. And so,
Oh.
I'm just
Ooh.
getting back starting in. Well, it was she was over 20 years old. I mean, that's pretty
Wow.
good for a cat.
Oh,
Yep.
that is good.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway,
Go
what's the
ahead.
question?
Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. Phil, I've got a Whisper decode working both from the command line and as a service using system control.
Yeah.
I'm not able to get FT4 or FT8 decodes to work as a service. And the error it gives is EXECLP decode underscore FT8 is missing or not found.
Okay, that's probably a path problem. I usually put the convention when you compile and install stuff locally is it goes in user local bin, which is
Okay.
often not in the path of a shell that's trying to execute it. Trying to
Yeah.
remember the right place to put that, but that's almost always the problem.
Okay. And so is it
Assuming that
decode
it is in fact in user local bin.
Okay, and so the services, of course, are just text files, and I don't know what. Okay, so you think I just need a path to user local bin added to the shell?
Yeah, assuming that the executable is in fact in user local bin, which is where the make install ought to put it. Also, you need some working directories, and I think right now I'm creating them by hand /recordings
Yeah, I
/FT8.
did all that. I created those, got the right
Okay.
user and groups and right permissions, and all of that's up and running with Whisper as a service. But it's just this so Whisper works fine. It's just FT4 and FT8 that are throwing the error.
Okay, make sure they are in fact a user local bin. They ought to be.
Okay, and is it decode_FT8? Is that the name of the executable?
Yeah, and I think there's a -4 option for decoding FT4. I just got that going like a week ago.
Okay, so it's the executable. So far, I can't find.
Yeah.
I'll
If it
mess
is
around
working
with
for
that.
FT, if it is working for Whisper, then you're obviously doing at least something right.
Yeah, Whisper, of course, just used the WSJTX, which I'd installed to come up and run. And it does it both from the command line and as a service.
Okay, of course, a very quick workaround is to create a symbolic link out of user bin to user local bin, but the right way is to figure out to get the path going. But if you're in a hurry, you can always create that symbolic link.
Yeah, I'll do it the right way, no problem.
Okay.
I'll go snoop around in there. Thank you.
Okay, guys, go ahead.
Okay. And
And I had a quick question.
oh, yes.
Yes.
Nathaniel.
Hey Phil.
Hi.
Did you get my email about the Hamsai workshop?
Oh, I know I have a lot of email that I just didn't feel like reading over the last week, but I got to catch up on a lot of this stuff.
Okay. Basically I wanted to invite you to be an invited tutorial speaker at the Hamsai workshop about K9Q radio.
Okay, when's that going to be?
March 22nd, 23rd.
Okay, that's far enough off that I can probably do it.
That'd be wonderful.
Okay, where would that be? Scranton?
No, it's gonna be Case Western this year.
Oh,
Cleveland.
okay.
Cleveland.
Okay. Oh, I already have Hamsai on my calendar.
Perfect.
2030 Case Western. Okay.
Yeah, we wanted to have someone to talk about kind of GNU radio, but I think we are looking at basically adopting, or we are pretty much adopting K9Q radio as the new software-defined personal space weather station platform. So
Okay.
we thought you would be a really excellent person to speak about how it works
Oh,
and what
okay.
it does and all of that.
Yeah, my stuff is really intended for production. I mean, GNU radio, I think, is great for prototyping and education,
Yeah.
experimenting, but if you really want to do production,
Yeah, which is I
okay,
think is yes.
great.
Thank
Okay,
you.
sure.
Okay. Well,
Wonderful.
let's continue down the list. Next on the list, we have Michael, AAK. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, thanks very much. Greetings to everyone. Back to you, Dave.
Okay. And then we have Bill, AC4EJ, right?
You're close. AB4EJ.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to report I have an RX 888 up and running with Rob's package Whisper Daemon and also collecting data. And I just found out collect all the wave files for all the different bands. And I've been going through and plotting them to create spectrograms. And it works on all bands except on 10 megahertz. There's some kind of a problem with 10 megahertz where the data gets corrupted. So it's kind of a mystery to me because there's a lot of.
Yeah, you shouldn't go too deep into it because I've been working intensely on that part of the code. And I think one of the problems may be the file ordering. I had not explicitly ordered the minute files in translating 1440 minutes to one 24-hour file. So it's very possible what you're seeing on some directories is the minute files are getting scrambled, the order of them. So I fixed that in the code and I just haven't had a chance to update your
Okay, well, here's the thing, Rob. I won't go into a lot of detail because this is just summary, but even when I take a single minute, scrambled, but it happens only on 10 megahertz. So
now that's unusual. I
thought that might be
yeah.
something. It looks like there's some kind of a software race somewhere or something, or maybe I have too much pollution from 10 megahertz in my station and it's confusing it somehow.
That's a possibility. I don't I mean, each band is processed by exactly the same piece
Yeah.
of software. It's just a different instance of it with a different file name as a source.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think you know, I'm never like to point fingers at others. You know, I'm willing to take responsibility, but um, I wouldn't understand how you could have one band that was corrupted and others were not. You know, that the only way would be the file ordering problem, which I fixed yesterday. So
Right. Well, once I suppose I could do this. I could turn my 10 megahertz GPS DOs off for a while and then run
Mhm.
to see if it cleans it up. You know. So anyway, that's
Okay,
all I had.
okay, yeah. Okay, I don't know how to. I'm not sure. I'd have to. I don't. I'll look. Maybe just look and see if there's any errors in your log files. But I would be surprised. But
I think that's the best solution. Have him look.
uh-huh.
So back to Nick.
Okay. Let's see, Rob, did I call on you yet?
No, but you
Okay,
can. Yeah,
go
but
ahead.
I'm always the longest-winded person here. So make sure
Well,
that everybody else gets a chance before
okay.
you.
Well, I'm gonna do it, and if you go really long, I'll cut you off.
Okay, well, let's see, I'm working on finalizing the recording, the grape mode of Whisper Demon. And the function here is that Whisper Demon records 24, 24 or 24 hours. There's 1,440 minutes in a day. So it records the compressed forms of those. And then at the end of the day, in the first minutes of a new day, it goes back and assembles all of those. It turns out 1,440 minutes of uncompressed 16 kilosamples is 5.6 gigabytes. So I decompress the WAV files, the FLAC files, into a temporary temp file system. And then I run SOX, and I've been able to, SOX is impressing me more and more. I'm able to have SOX read all 1,440 minutes and downsample them down to 10 hertz and create a single 10 hertz file in a single pass. So those I need those files to be validated. Bill was my target there, but I'm also trying to get it so that this becomes a configured, a kind of automatic part of Whisper Daemon. And I'm an hour away from having that functionality, at which point I'm going to update every Whisper Daemon site, which will include you, Dave,
Yep.
and of course, Michael and everybody else in the SAM group, Bill, even Phil, I'll probably update him so he can, but KFS, KPH, all of these sites are going to be upgraded so that they're now going to be contributing. So these 1 minute, these 24-hour 10 hertz IQ wave files are being stored at whisperdemon.org. There's a grape account there. They're stored in directory trees. So each directory tree refers to a receive site, receiver, and band. And so all the sites, data from all sites will be available there. And the data is only like 38. There's 10 bands if you have all the time machines. So the 10 bands occupy about 40 megabytes a day per site. So, I'm sure I'll be able to store, months of these files. But I'm hoping is that Bill and maybe Franco or whoever else, Nathaniel, whoever can look at these files and make sure that these are useful as part that there isn't some corruption, as Bill's mentioned, corruption in the creation of these files, because I really have no way of really validating them apart from are they the right size? Are they the right number of seconds in the file, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my, and especially with my poor hearing, I'm not going to hear anything useful out of these files, but the 10 hertz, ones are especially useful. You can't really hear anything there. I think it'll be trivial, almost trivial. I wouldn't say trivial, but very easy, Nathaniel, for me to, once I have all of these 1,440 files, or 1 minute long, I can run socks across all of them and trim the first 0.8 of a second, and extract create a wave file that is a frequency shifted. So so we could have another maybe 10 hertz wide file that was the presence of the Hawaii or tones in the first minute. So you could have, like in Audacity, I could envision having multiple track, the 24 hours that is the carrier frequency, and then another 2 tracks, one which is the intensity of the, what is it, 800 hertz and 1 kilohertz or whatever, just 2 tracks below it, and you would be able to envision which tracks is. And of course, we can make those into log files and put out the intensity at each 2 minutes or something. But just creating such a wave file should be really, I think, really straightforward. I haven't explored. I know that SOX supports frequency shifting, so I just have it shift the frequency down by 990 hertz or 995 hertz, and then I put a wave file that's 10 hertz and downsampled. I think I can do that in one command line. So I think you'll get what you want out of this, Nathaniel. But I'm not going to do that for a while. I want to
Yeah.
get this stuff checked in and out. Anyway, that's my major.
Okay.
So
Well, it sounds like you're very busy.
That is absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
yeah, I'm hoping that by next week's we will have all of these, all of your 888 sites that I have access to will be running this code and contributing the 24-hour 10 hertz wave files to the. So the next step, of course, is I think, Bill, you're ready to work on taking those 10 hertz wave files and putting them into digital RF format and getting them into your database, which is where they need to end up.
Yep.
So that's but I need to create you good wave files and make sure they're all right, and before it's useful.
So, Rob, I think I want to finish the roll call and then
That's it.
talk later.
You notice I put in a pause there. So that's
Okay. Okay. Next on the list, we have Dave, KD0EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Hello all. I've been working with the Grape 2 team on adding magnetometer stuff to that. That's one of my main things, and then fighting with the computer spirits around here, demons, I suppose. But other than that, nothing much to report. That's it for me.
Okay. Next on the list would be David in one HAC. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Besides trying to stay warm, winter's finally arrived here, it appears. Actually, very interesting vortex street, I would say, of our series of storms going across the country. We're continuing to work on building out our AM Doppler system, getting ready for the upcoming eclipse. I'd like to give a talk to our radio club on that, the upcoming events. I suppose I could have Nathaniel give it, or I guess there's a good slide deck available. Is that true, Nathaniel?
There is a good slide deck available from Ed WX2R and Gary AF8A. It might even be posted to our website. And I also can give you, I can actually just put the link in the chat now. I've been giving a talk about everything, and you are more than welcome to borrow my slides. And
Okay.
I just emailed them over to Jim Farmer, and I'll just put them in the chat now too. And uh, feel free
Thank
to
you.
feel free to borrow that. So that's in the chat.
That would probably work. I'll take a look. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I guess that's it for now. Back to Nat.
Okay. Next on the list is JWB8 SBI. Go ahead, Jay. Jay, are you there? He's muted. Guess he's just listening in. Oh,
Nope,
there he
there
is.
we go. Had to, there were some extra buttons on Zoom. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. And up here in Detroit, it's going to get down to, well, last night it was around 0 degrees Fahrenheit with wind chills, -10, -15. Tonight it's going to be more of the same. So it's dangerous to be outside. Other than that, my MFJ Morphine Junk Vertical Antenna is living up to its name. I'm looking forward to the HAMSI here in Cleveland, and I went over to the registration page from the HAMSI at the HAMSI, and where it says make reservations, and then it refers you over to a web page at community.case.edu. And that's the registration page. Then in the upper right-hand corner, it has something which caught my attention. It says free $100. What's free and what's $100? So I just noticed that a few minutes.
Where did you see that?
When you go to in HAMSI, when you go to the page where it has the information on the workshop on the HAMSI workshop at Case Western,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a button there where you click to register for registration and buy tickets, and that takes you over to click here, register for in-person workshop. There you go, right there. No, you
Oh,
passed.
okay. So the free to $100, I think that's something that whatever their software automatically, so their software probably automatically looks at these different options here, and it
Okay.
says what the cheapest thing is, which is if you just want to take an exam session, that's free, and the most expensive thing is Friday only registration, that's $100. So perhaps that's a little misleading. I don't
Slightly.
I could check with the people that put this page together, and I can see if this is something that they're able to take off, or it may just be the way that software is. But yeah. So if you want to register for the entire thing, you need both Friday and Saturday. So it's $150.
Yep.
And yeah.
And then when the hotel's there, when you go to the hotel, everything, where is it? Lodging. Yeah, on the scroll down there, the lodging thing, is the Cleveland Courtyard by Marriott. Is that where everybody is staying?
That's the one that we're recommending. That's the primary hotel.
And
So
please ask for the CWRU rate.
yeah, Case Western Reserve University.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. And then
Especially since from where I'm at, the drive is 4.5 hours from my house.
that will be perfect.
Yeah.
And Phil, you can see we have on here uh bios and pictures. So if you have a picture and a bio you want us to use, you can send one, or we'll scour the internet and try to find one. So if you want control over what we put on here, please send us. And once you have an abstract, we'll put the abstract on as well.
Okay. How much time do I have?
I don't know, a week or so. Or
No, I can talk for a week at your conference. Okay.
yeah, sure. It's a no, so it's gonna be 45 minutes including questions and answers.
Okay. How many people?
Up to 150.
Oh, it's pretty big. Okay.
Yeah. And plus people on Zoom. So there's up to 150 people in person plus Zoom. And then it'll be recorded and the recordings will be posted here for, you know,
Okay.
as long as YouTube and we exist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Oh,
that's all I had. So
okay. Can
yes,
we move down the list and then leave room for discussion?
yep, we're good. Take care.
Okay.
Back to Nick.
Next on the list was Jonathan, KC3 EY. Jonathan?
Hi everybody. I've been quite busy the past week with non-VLF related stuff. Unfortunately, or fortunately, that is looking much better. But for VLF related stuff, what I've been doing is I've been working with Gary. He's the maintainer of GPS Daemon. And GPS Daemon is open source software that runs on various platforms that talks directly to GPS modules and receivers and sensors and makes it available over TCP socket. It also will interface directly with the pulse per second through the various operating system facilities and hardware on how you would interface a pulse per second signal with a computer, be it a regular serial port or Raspberry Pi or something like that. So I've been working with Gary to add or at least test support for the Trimble resolution SMT and SMTX. So many years ago when I was building Nixie clocks, GPS slave Nixie clocks, the plan was to use a Trimble resolution SMTX. But I recently got some Trimble SMT modules from eBay for very cheap. And I didn't realize that there was a Trimble SMT. I thought it was just an SMTX, but they're two different models altogether. So what I did was I provided Gary data using GPS Daemon tools of their outputs from both units from a cold start. So he was able to get data and this was the raw Trimble binary data that I was able to give to Gary so he can use it for testing to make sure that everything works and also for regression testing in GPS Daemon. So it's really nice to work with Gary. I'm also going to send him 2 engineering samples from these units that I get off of eBay. Right now, there's a seller in China selling old Trimble SMT and SMTX modules. They're GPS only receivers, and they have a very short pulse per second. And I'm using the Trimble SMT in my 3-channel VLF system. So what I did, all of the modules that I had, I set the pulse per second bias from GPS to UTC, so the pulse per second goes off at the UTC second. and not based on GPS time. That's an important thing to do with Trimble units. And I'm planning on finishing my updating GPS statement on the 3-channel VLF system Pi, and getting the pulse per second working, getting the final cables done and soldered in and ready to go. And once that is all done and I'm in the GPS statement testing mode and pulse per second testing mode, that's when I plan on starting on the dual channel H field receiver that will be used with that. Also, I've been working with a fellow on Facebook who's been doing some VLF research. Basically he's trying to take data because it's been observed that seismic activity from landslides affects the signal of VLF transmitters somehow. The way it looks on Spectrum Lab is that they look noisy. I don't understand the phenomena. I don't really get what he's doing. I have to kind of read the papers that he was referencing. He's doing this as part of his PhD. But what I've been doing is I've been telling him how to properly set up a VLF system with isolation transformers on the feed line, and also sample correction and time stamping using a GPS pulse per second in Spectrum Lab. So I've been setting him up with that to make sure that he's taking valid measurements, so we could actually see if there's something going on here. I don't really know if it's just noise, but that's why we're doing this work, to make sure he's doing everything good. That's all I have. Back to Nanette.
Okay, and last on the list tonight is Michael Howen, AC0G. Go ahead, Michael.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Sorry. Greetings and Happy New Year, and I hope everybody stays warm. I've been working today on understanding the upload of data to the magnetometer, and with Bill's help, the magnetometer server at University of Alabama. And with Bill's help, I think we managed to develop a much better understanding of that. He helped me clear up a couple of different bugs along the way, and now I understand it a lot better. I think I know Dave Witten's got some magnetometer data, and maybe other people do. Getting some of this backloaded stuff uploaded is going to be a boon, I hope. Second, I received a Ryzen, one of these B-Link little boxes, a Ryzen 7. And so I have that as an option for setting up Whisper when I go up to Fargo again, which I'm hoping to do next month. My mom is celebrating her 90th birthday on the 20th. And my brothers and I are going to drive up there and try to surprise her, I hope, for a couple of days. Hopefully it won't surprise her too much. Anyway, that's what I've been working on. So I want to thank Bill for all his help, and back to Nat.
Okay, I have one message from Gary AFA. He said he will be manning the Hamsci booth in Orlando this year, and Tapper is not sending anybody specifically. And so Gary said anybody from Tapper or from the groups that work on these projects are welcome in the Hamsci booth to hang out. So if you're in that part of the world, you're welcome to hang out with Gary. And that's it. I think we're at the end of the list. And so we'd be open for general discussion. I had one quick thing I wanted to tell Phil. I actually had one of those B-Links and set it up with an AirSpy R2 and figured out how to make the APRS code work.
Oh, good.
Which we don't have a good description of in the documents, but
Yeah.
I can now do that because I now know how it works.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, you want to write it up? That's great. I mean,
Sure.
sometimes the person who didn't write the code is a better one to write the documents. Yeah, I'd written that just for myself for use at the high school, and I'm meaning to write up, but I haven't done anything with it in a long time. I'm still writing it, but it's not doing much.
Actually, I'm using the the radio 2-meter radio D, and then I'm using the packet D, and then I'm actually using the APRS feed. And at this point, I don't have a real purpose for the APRS C, which is more for tracking.
Yeah.
It's the way I interpret it.
Right. Right. Yeah. I got to get out of here pretty soon, go to a micro meeting, but okay, I'm going to try to catch up all my email. I know been just piling up for the last couple of weeks.
So at this point, we're generally open for discussion.
I just want to say, Rob, if you want to talk about validating or having me look at any of those spectrograms or anything, I'm happy to do that on these calls.
Okay, well, that's there are, you can log in to that account, the grape account at whisperdemon.org, SSH there. And underneath it are directory trees at the bottom of which are 24-hour long WAV files, 10 hertz wide. So I know you sent me the Python code to do it, and I'd be interested in running it myself, but I've got so many.
Did you say that you were that Bill was generating some spectrograms for you?
I don't know, Bill, not quite sure what Bill's doing with it. He'd be better to address that. So
yeah, I've got something that will give you the spectrogram of one of the 1-minute wave files.
Okay. Well, on your Ryzen machine, Bill, are the 24-hour, well, maybe they're not there yet. I've forgotten. Probably it won't happen until later tomorrow morning. I just need to finish this integration, and then I'll send you an email when those 24-hour files are available. I'm not sure. I don't see any overloads on your system. I don't see any RF, ADC overloads. Well, I see a few, but very small. I guess you haven't been on air transmitting.
It depends on how much I'm on the air. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I haven't seen any wave file overloads, PCM wave file overloads being reported either. So your system seems to be well characterized. You're uploading, anywhere up to 80 or 90 spots per whisper cycle. So you're one of the top receive sites in the Western United States. So
Western?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Western Eastern United States. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Is it so I mean, I think you're an excellent site. I think you're going to get great data from your site, even
I
when
am in
you're
the western part of Alabama. I discovered something that might prove useful though too. Here's something cool. If you adjust the BIOS to put the span of the Ryzen to max, and then you set the RX 888 down on top of it, it pulls so much air through there that it keeps the 888 at room temperature.
Oh, really?
The
So where do you
Ryzen 10 will do them both.
Yeah. Well, I have been, one of the to-dos on the to-do list is to figure out if we can have the Linux CPU under Linux adjust the fan speed on the Ryzens. Because, I mean, for people who have them, I mean, it doesn't make any, the noise of the Ryzen doesn't bother me out at KFS. There's nobody in there. But I know that if you're using it in your shack, that it's annoying to have the fan run so fast. So, I mean, they just, B-Link, the manufacturer, just doesn't describe how you access the fan, but it ought to be really simple. You certainly can get the CPU temperature. BTOP shows that to you. So that's available to Linux programs. But the ability to control and monitor the fan speed is not documented, and Linux doesn't know how to do it. It was easy for Whisper Daemon to add a little routine to monitor it and adjust it, the fan speed. If I knew, I'm sure it's literally one x86 instruction to write some magic value to a register someplace in the memory space, but it's, who knows where it is? I don't know. So I
Is
looked at,
that, Rob, is my system storing those WAV files in the same format as well?
yes, they're the 1 minute long WAV files are stored underneath in your Whisper Daemon home directory. And those are compressed, they're losslessly compressed. And there's a whole directory tree there. I mean, in a way, it might be easier to
Right.
just show you guys if you want to see it. But anyway, they're down there. And
Yeah, I've seen it and looked at it. I was just wondering what sort of post-processing you'd subjected them to. Are they at the 10 kilohertz or the 10 hertz bandwidth?
That's the code I've been working on for the last few days. Is it takes those WAV files, which are 16 kilo sample WAV files, and downsamples them to create one 24-hour long 10 hertz bandwidth WAV file from the
Now
14
you
hertz.
use SOCs, right?
Yes.
FFmpeg can do the same thing. Or,
There's, I'm sure that there's dozens of tools to do this, but SOX seems to be, I know how to use SOX. It's available on every Linux system. I don't even have to do an apt install to get it. So,
got it.
and it seems to be extreme. I see hardly any check-ins but an active forums about it. So I think it's an extremely stable and well documented and supported utility. So far, I haven't needed.
I was trying to use Nathaniel's Jupyter notebook that he presented last week and take some of those FLAC files and transform them to a WAV file that would be read by Nathaniel's script. And I was
okay.
just kind
You
of
can,
stumbling.
Oh, well, the first step is, of course, to decompress them, and you use the FLAC program. FLAC --D instructs FLACs to decompress, and so FLAC will decompress the FLAC file and create a WAV file. It leaves the FLAC file there by default, but it expands the FLAC file and creates a file with the same name, but has the .wav extension rather than .flac as its file name extension. So,
okay, I'll give that a try. Thank you.
Okay, so that's how you want to trend. But what you're looking at underneath Whisper Daemon are the 1 minute long files. I didn't see any advantage. In fact, I saw disadvantages to trying to consolidate these files and put them into a single file. So what I can do now is if you or I restart your Whisper Daemon machine, you're going to be missing some 1 minute files while the reboot occurs. So I put in a repair feature where Whisper Daemon goes in, the Grape utility goes in and inserts a silence file. That's a file that has 1 minute long silent file. It inserts it into the directory along with the non-silent file. So you end up with a full, always can end up with 1,440 minutes of, or file, 1 minute files. So there will be what I was thinking I would do is add a statistics file or statistics log file that will document which files are silence files, so that if in processing these, Bill or whoever does this processing, there'd be a place to look and see where silence was introduced due to reception failures for whatever reason. So, but in normal operation, I don't think you're going to see. I mean, these systems run for months without a glitch once they're installed stably. So I don't think that there's going to be much need for repairs. But as I do these development work, I'm rebooting these machines, and you end up with gaps of 3 or 4 or 5 minutes as the system restarts. So that's what's going on. But Michael, I will install like I would at Dave's and Bill's and everybody else. Once I get the scrape utilities integrated into Whisper Daemon, then there will be a configuration file variable, grape opal equals yes or something, where Whisper Daemon will perform all of this processing and uploading, and it'll be left, the files will be left behind. I mean, they're only 3.8 megabytes each for each band for each day. So there's not a lot of extra storage required to leave behind the 24-hour 10 hertz wave files.
And will we have the option to, I think, Nathaniel, correct me if I'm wrong, you were hoping that there would be, or seeing benefit in the prospect of some wider bandwidth samples than the current 10 hertz.
Well, there are two main things I wanted to go after. The most important thing is that we have some way of differentiating whether we're hearing WWV or WWVH. And so Rob was, coming up with some ways to address that at the beginning, where we listen to the two frequencies where you can differentiate the two and have another channel, and so basically you're getting the information that way. But that was one reason to expand the bandwidth. The other reason is there have been a couple of times where I've seen maybe more than a ±5 hertz swing. It happens rarely, but there are every once in a while I do see a little bit more of a swing than ±5 hertz, and that's why maybe going to something a little bit bigger than 10 samples per second, maybe 20 samples per second, would probably capture pretty much everything we see.
Well, the way this works is Whisper Daemon fills up the file system that contains the wave files, fills it up to 75% full.
Okay.
And at that point, if it overflows that limit, then it goes back and deletes the oldest.
Right. So it's a ring buffer.
It's a ring buffer.
Right.
And so that if you say someone were monitoring for such events, you could go out to a individual or to the receive sites and request from them the full-on 16 kilosample previous data from previous days, as many days as they can store. And that's, it's typically a week or more on a reasonable size hard disk or solid state disk will store.
And that's very much in line with what we originally wanted with the Tangerine as well, to do that sort of a ring buffer. Yeah.
We need to have some kind of a mechanism. We can't upload that into the central storage. So there needs to be a mechanism for a researcher to say, "Ooh, I see something interesting. I'd like this site or this list of sites to give me this day's full on or these minutes of this day
It's also the sort of thing that could be automatically programmed too, especially with a ring buffer, because, I think it's fairly easy to, I would think it'd be fairly simple to, write a code to see, oh, does the main Doppler shift exceed 5 plus minus 5 hertz? If so, give us 20 minutes worth of double data
Yeah.
rate
Yeah.
data.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that at some point that there'll be another developer who would be interested in
Yeah.
adding features to this, because I am
Yeah.
getting to the stage of being a little burned out
Right.
on all this stuff.
Well, yeah, and I don't think that this is stuff that should be added in now. I'm just, yeah.
I mean, the system is infinitely expandable,
Right.
and so we can add those features. But for
Yeah.
right now, I'm just trying to get the basic stuff up there and get it to the point where it's contributed into your
Yeah.
DRF database, and
Yeah. Yeah.
but one other thing I did do, by the way, is that I've been working with Dave Schwartz in W0DAS, who I guess isn't part of this meeting today, but he's, I was pleased to learn, the president of the WWV Radio Society, Amateur Radio Society. And he is, I sent him a 888 in a Think Center. And Glenn, N60N, contributed one of his reference GPSDOs and an antenna system. And Dave has staged in his home right now in Fort Collins, but he has prepared a site that's about 2 miles due east of the WWV towers. And Dave is going to install a grape receiver. I don't know if it's grape 1 or 2, and the Whisper Demon 888 receiver will also be installed there. So there'll be a way to validate both of those systems. There'll be kind of reference receive points for the grape and for the Whisper Demon grape systems. We'll have a place where the signal noise ratio will be, there's no ionospheric component, and even better than Glenn's site up on the mountain, which is about 20 kilometers away. And Glenn is pretty certain of that even though he can see the towers from his home in the south end of Fort Collins, he can see the WWV towers, but the signal levels that he gets there are 40 or 30 dB lower than up on the hill, which also is the same distance, but right in the middle of the probably in the antenna beam pattern. Whereas the ground transmission is the attenuation from the pattern at ground level is very significant, and means that at sometimes the day he may be getting a significant part of the wave coming from ionospheric propagation, even though he can see the. So we have anyway. So we will soon. I think when the world warms up a bit and the Colorado warms up a bit, he's going to go out here to this site and put this stuff in place. So that I think will be a significant contribution to the validation of the operation of this whole system. So, and we'll be able to compare as a reference site the two receive systems to verify that they are both generating the same good data, i.e., good frequency, phase response, and so on. So, so that's one of the side projects that I have going.
That sounds really good.
And now that Phil, hopefully we'll have some time, there's a few things that I could use from Phil. I've kind of forgotten them now. Glad to have you back with us, Phil. I was a little worried there. I didn't hear from him for 4 or 5 days, and the last thing I heard is a really terrible flu. And I had a friend who was went to the hospital. One of our receive sites is in Santa Fe. Is a physician, retired physician friend of mine, was hospitalized with the flu, and close to being intubated and put on a respirator from it. So so it's a really serious thing. So when you guys see me, you'll see me behind a mask in Cleveland, because I've heard a number of horror stories about this flu, not just the COVID part of it. It's, I guess, he had influenza A, Dan had influenza A. So anyway, serious, but serious problems. What else is? Anyway, so you'll all be hearing from those of you who have 888s. Will be hearing from me. And another topic, since there's a silence there, is I am intending to send out these whisper songs. One would probably go to Michael to deploy there in someplace around Missouri. And the other one was going to Alan, the guy in Austin or San Antonio, the ham down there, had volunteered to host a whisper sound for the eclipse. So, but I wanted to verify the whole system
I think that
here
was
before
Bob Strickland. Was that
Yes,
was?
that sounds right. Yeah. I think he was in one of these meetings and said he'd be happy to host one transmitter. So, and I'm hoping that we can find one for Cleveland. We need to find, we'd like to find some transmit sites along the path of totality. So, so anyway, I'm hoping to, once I get this Whisper Demon Grave feature out there, I wanted to go test those and send them off and get them set up in the next, certainly in the next month, so that they're in service for weeks and months before the eclipse.
My son has an apartment in Cleveland. Lives in a house in Cleveland. Suppose we could put something there.
Well, I got to talk to Gary and see if the
Might be better on the campus.
Yeah, I guess we'll be there before the eclipse, so I might even bring a whisper sound with me, and maybe we could go and give a demonstration. If maybe there'd be a good hands-on presentation on the whisper sound and its use.
Yeah, that would be a very nice thing if you a hands-on presentation at the demo would be fantastic.
Okay, well, then you can sign me up for that. I'll do that. We can, yeah, I'm sure. Paul Elliott, who makes them, is ready to contribute. He's got the several of I think the Whisper Sound 8s, which are really the ones that are available and manufacturable. And so he's ready to make as many as we'd want. So because they're basically 95% of the work is done by JLC PCB. It's a single printed circuit board and all the components are on it. So it's very easy for Paul to make more. Triple explorations in the use of the RX 888. I had one of the 888s failed on me. And I shipped it off, and it had the same failure mode as I'd seen previously, which is it loads up the software, goes into 5 gigabit USB mode, but it doesn't deliver any data. So I sent it to Clint, KA70EI, and he pulled it apart and said, what's happened is that the 5351 clock chip had been blown, and there's a single-ended differential driver that follows it to drive the analog to digital converter had also been blown. But apparently nothing else went on. It was blown on the board. So he has ordered the parts from DigiKey to replace those two parts to verify of his diagnosis and the fix. But what that suggests is that any use of the RX 888 with an external clock, which is the only way I do anything anymore, is one should be very cautious with the signal levels and for ground loops. What Clint found is that the external clock input does have protection diodes on it to clamp the signals down to ground, so they don't go more than 0.6 below ground or above 0.6 of a volt above the 3.3 rail. But his theory is those protection diodes were not damaged. Those protection diodes were working. So his theory was that maybe they're due to some transient ground loop or something, that so much voltage was applied through the external clock cable that pulled up the 3.3 volt rail inside the 888, and that's what damaged the chips. So it's I think it's going to be really important to come up with a protection circuit, and I've been using as a protection, I've been using just a 50 ohm terminator on a T connector at the back of the on the external clock input. I think others have even better solutions, which is to put in a 3 dB or 5 dB pad in series with that input.
I use both. I use both the 50 ohm termination with a T connector and a I think 6 dB attenuator.
Well, you were wise, and that's to do so. So hopefully, what may have been, the first diagnosed as a thermal problem on the 888 may be a problem that is associated with our external clock input usage. But I don't know, the sample sizes are so small that it's hard to know if there's, 2 or more failure modes that for the 888. But
One of my
I'm
888s had the same behavior, namely it loaded the new firmware loaded when Radio D loaded, but there was no output, no meaningful output.
okay.
So it sounds very similar to what you just described.
Yeah. Well,
Also, many
so-
of these problems came up at just about the moment everybody was exploring putting an external clock on the
Yeah.
board.
Yeah. Well, I think that there were reports, I think, from in the next generation SDR forum, people had reported problems prior to our working with the external clock inputs. But I think it seems fairly certain that external clocks should be used with caution.
Has Clint developed any kind of guidelines on just what levels the input should be at?
The level need not be more than 1 volt. And if you actually look at the signals, I mean, the pin that is the 5351 pin, and I think is the clock input pin, is actually one of the 2 external crystal pins. So when the 5351 is using a crystal as the source of its clock, rather than an oscillator, that these pins have signals on the order of 200 millivolts differential. So it doesn't take a lot of signal to apparently clock the 5351, and there may be good reasons to not overdrive those inputs, because if you overdrive the input, then there's a saturation effect inside the device, and so the release time of the internal release time for the, you may introduce ringing or clock skew by overdriving it. So I think that Glenn's advice has been no more than 1 volt peak to peak.
Well, the trouble is, I guess we could measure that independently. Uh, Bodnar has provision in the software for selecting a variety of milliamp levels. It
Yes.
doesn't really have anything directly to do with volts. And then, there's options on the level of attenuation you can put in line.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess the idea would be to have some generic advice that's good for everybody on how to, if you're using a Bodnar, what to set the milliamps at, and if you're going to put an
Yeah.
attenuator in, what the attenuator to use.
Yeah, I haven't tried the attenuator. I did measure the clock levels with my oscilloscope, and I have been using a Bogner set to 16 milliamp output with a 50 ohm terminator on the T at the back of the and that seems to the 50 ohm terminator. I think I was seeing about 1 volt peak to peak on my oscilloscope when I did that. So if you don't put in a terminator there, then basically the milliamp setting has no effect because you're driving a high impedance input. So there's so that you're swinging irrespective of the output setting on the Bogner, you're getting a 3 volt peak to peak swing. So it is and the reason Bogner did that is that that's how the 5351 specs its output is it specs it based upon milliamps, not voltage levels. So it must be some internal resistance. The output driver transistor inside the 5351 must have some well-known, well-defined output impedance, and which they could change.
Yeah,
So
Rob, I'm going to modify what you said there a little bit in that depending on the length of coax that you have between the Bodnar and the RX-888, you could get some very interesting spikes on the clock waveform.
well,
and that does depend on the drive strength.
Yeah,
because you're driving a 50 ohm cable, which then reflects back on itself. And so if you're driving it with a 50 ohm impedance at the Bodnar end, which would be the desired, then it all works out. But I'm not sure what its driver is when they're changing the drive current. So yeah, depending on your drive current, you could either get a very slow rise and multiple reflections, like an exponential rise, or you could actually overdrive it and get a high spike, then a negative spike, then a
you're
positive
right.
spike.
You're quite right. No, I have a 100 megahertz scope, so I can't see anything of the edges,
Yeah.
So I'm not, I'm just not equipped to.
You're driving it with what, 66 megahertz? Is that what we're putting in?
We're talking 27 for the
27. That's right.
Yeah,
But still, yeah, you can see at best the third harmonic, and you're not going to really see what's happening.
Yeah, I'm hoping that maybe we can come up with a external clock input circuit that Paul Elliott, WB6CXE, has been marvelously responsive in creating these little interface boards for our use. And he's currently working on one, has designed one, I think it's out for fab, which includes his shelving filter, as well as a 15 dB gain stage. And in all of our experience with Whisper Demon, you need both of them in front of almost any SDR. I mean, any wideband SDR needs the 10 megahertz high pass shelving filter and needs needs a low pass filter, of course, the 30 megahertz low pass, and you need gain if you're at a quiet receive site like Bill's. I mean, Bill, you probably would get even more spots if you put in an additional 10 dB gain and add that shelving filter that I sent you.
That the filter and the ground isolator are both installed.
Okay, well, then you would then absolutely, you need more gain. You're not, as long as you're not overloading from, you would benefit from 10 dB more gain for sure. And you would see your, the benefits, of course, are on 20 meters and above. You will see a lot more spots come out when you do that. It's because the noise figure of the system you're running right now, the 888 and the at the 20 dB gain levels, the noise figure of that system is on the order of like 20 dB. It's horrible. It's worse than the Kiwis. So if you look at a system where you find like I've done, where you feed the same RF, identical RF off of a passive splitter, you feed it to a 888 and a Kiwi. The Kiwi will produce 10% more spots above 20 meters. And the Kiwi itself is deaf. So if you put in 10 dB of gain at those frequencies, its noise figure is 17 dB. And at places like KPH, the noise level is minus 162, 163. It's only 10 dB above thermal, and if things are quiet, which they are a lot out there. So if the receiver, if the Kiwi or the receiver is generating minus 152, 155 noise on its input, then you've got 6 to 8 dB more signals that are being masked by the noise of the input stage of these receivers. So again, this is only meaningful in a site that is quiet, but you can make sites. Tom Paratori, WA2TP, is sitting there in Long Island, rural Long Island. He is #2 spotter in the world, and he's just tweaked and on his antenna systems there in his suburban lot to get rid of all of the noise sources ingress through his various antennas and feed line systems. So you can do extremely well at receiving really remarkably sensitively. Even in an urban environment, there's some things you can't get rid of course, but there's there can, in sites like Tom, I think is reduced his base background noise levels by more than 20 dB over the last couple of years through careful attention to the way he configures the antennas and feed line systems and amplifiers and such.
I installed shelving filters on the 2 RX88s I'm running here at home, and the quality of my reception has gone up pretty significantly. The amount of spots I'm receiving is way in excess, and I think it has to do with the fact that the noise at the lower frequencies is being attenuated, and it potentiates those middle and upper frequencies receptions that weren't there before.
I think I haven't looked at your system, Michael, but it's a lot of what you gain from the shelving filter really is that you avoid overloads from the shortwave broadcasters. In fact, it reduces your noise figure. So, but if you have a problem with shortwave or AM broadcasters, shoving them down by 10 to 20 dB means that you've got a lot less noise. But if you to understand your receive system, you've got to look at the reports and Phil's control program is really where you should start. And if you guys are not familiar with it, it's available to you in a terminal window. And you can look at, let's see, this is looking at yours, Bill, right now. This is a real-time view of a Bill system, his Horizon. And you can see in the middle here is I'm running, this is a window that has 4 panes. They're divided by these green, thin green lines.
We're not
So
seeing anything, Rob.
you're not seeing anything.
I'm
Hmm.
seeing it here.
I'm seeing it. So
You're not seeing it? Is it just that it's too large? No?
There you go.
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So there is it made it to everyone?
Yeah, it just came up on my screen.
Okay. So this is a terminal window. It's running in TMUX, so it sits there running all the time. And the top window is BTOP. It's showing you the CPU activity and other statistics about the operation. You can see that there was a brief burst of 100% CPU that occurs right at the even 2 minutes when Whisper Daemon is running all the Whisper decoding, the Whisper D decoders. But for this discussion, the second pane down is a view of Phil's control program. And there's some very useful information that you can gain from this. There's this, well, I don't think I can highlight here, but if you see the signal box, it's the 4th box over in the middle pane. Maybe I shouldn't show you everything at once.
Where your cursor is there, we can see your cursor.
You can see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, so the cursor is right next to you. See it's -20 dBFS. You see that? It's now -17. It's bouncing around.
Yes.
This
In the
is
signal box.
in the signal box. And that top input level, that's Phil, if he's listening, can correct me, but my understanding is this is the RMS at a level calculated across the 0 to 30 megahertz spectrum. So so you want this value to be high enough that you know that the analog to digital converter, you're exercising all of the sampling range of its sample bits, but you also don't want to have too many samples that exceed the full sample level. So there's 2 values that you look at here with your 888. It's the input level, okay, which is kind of optimally about -15 dBFS. At -15 dBs, there is a once a year, you'll get a sample that by Gaussian distribution, you'll get a sample that reaches full scale. Surprisingly, you don't have to go down much in signal level for the Gaussian distribution to gain a lot. You can actually see the number of overrange bands and full samples over in the right-hand box, the RX888 Whisper Daemon. You can see that there's a samples line, which is in 22 gigasamples or something right now. And below it is overrange count. And that's the count of samples that were full scale. And it's to be expected there will be some if you have a reasonably configured system, but you want them to be well below 1% of the samples, be 0.1%, 0.01%. And as you can see, this is way below overrange. So as soon as Bill turns on his FT8 transmitter, you'll now see, half of them of the samples will be new samples will be overrange. Doesn't really damage the 888, but it does, of course, damage its ability to decode anything. So those are the 2 really important. First, that's the RF measurements that I look at a deployed system. These are the measurements for 888, but for other SDRs, there's the same rules apply for all direct sample SDRs. You need to have the signal high enough that you get exercise the full range of the analog to digital converter, but you don't want to have too many overrange events. So these statistics that Phil presents are very important to him. There is another important metric, overrange metric, that is not shown by control. But let me finish and just show you, those of you who have 888s and have Whisper Demon, you can just open a terminal window like this and type WD-9C, which is K9Q control program. And you can put in the band. We were looking at 20 meters, but we can put in the band you're interested. So if you want to look at 40 meters. Now, for reasons I don't understand on your system, Bill, it takes 10, 20, 30 seconds for this control program to start actually updating. So it must be, there's some DNS problem here that, it's not popping up. We'll see the control windows pop up for 40 meters in a few seconds. There you go. I don't know why it takes so long. In other systems, they pop right up in seconds. And these statistics are updated, I don't know, you can see there's like every quarter second they get updated. So here's 40 meters. You can see that, well, the input level, signal input level, isn't very important because, I mean, it applies across the whole band, so it's not band specific. So whatever band you're looking at, the signal input value will be the same. But the other values farther down, some of which of the values down below are calculated, others are configured. But I think things like the SNR and the N0, which I think is the noise level, that he calculates. So, you know, minus 140 dB per hertz at 40 meters is a pretty darn quiet site. Now, you have no gain right in front of this receiver at the moment, Bill, if you have no.
That is correct. I don't have like a preamp or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. Any preamp or anything?
No.
Yeah, well, so this is what's coming, you know, you have a pretty darn quiet site. Well, I think if you look at the
Rob,
ITU.
Rob, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Rob,
can.
am I coming through? Oh, okay. Yeah, I have been listening. I've been driving over to the meeting, but I haven't listened the whole way. Yeah, that number is relative. That's why it doesn't say, it doesn't have any units on it. It's basically dB in the absolute scale. So it will vary with the input level.
Yeah.
So it's really only relative, but obviously the signal noise ratios down below are what really tell you the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah. Now the dB, I should say the N0 number is computed because it is not flat over the whole input spectrum by any means. It is far from flat. I compute it over the sampling range of the channel. So if it's sampling at 12 kilohertz, then it's looking over a band 12 kilohertz wide centered on whatever you're listening on.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so as you tune from band to band, N0 will change, and it'll change slowly because it's highly damped. It's highly smooth, but it will depend on where you're tuned.
So one of the issues we have, Phil, since you're listening, is I now remember this whole discussion, is it would be really good if you could implement AGC in a way that that would be wouldn't perturb the Whisper
Believe
Demons.
me, believe me, I've been thinking about it.
Good, good. Well, that's I had been somewhat discouraging of this, but Clint has pointed out that if you were to adjust the dynamically adjust the front end gain so that the overranges, you know, didn't grow too quickly.
Yeah.
And at
Believe
the same
me, on VHF or UHF, this will be easy. Okay.
Yeah, but it'll be a challenge for you in the I know in the shortwave band. But if you were to monitor that and adjust the first off the RF gain, the front end gain, so that there aren't too many overranges, and at the same time adjust the demodulation gain down below, so that you're to compensate for the change in front end gain. That would mean that whatever Whisper Demon calculated as the background noise level would be constant. And if you did that, then then we could turn on the AGC and Whisper Demon could get out of managing AGC, which it shouldn't be doing.
We've had this discussion before. I mean, once the front end is taken care of, the rest of it, you've got 100 dB dynamic range. You worry about it too much.
Yeah,
But we've had this
yeah,
conversation
but
before.
yeah. Well, my point though is that we get very useful scientific data from the noise level measurements that we make from these systems.
I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah.
And with all
So,
the gains set constant, then you should see, real noise level changes.
Yeah. So we just need to be able to continue to make those measurements and log those background noise level measurements so that they're meaningful. And with you turning on AGC. So you're better able to figure this out, Phil, than I can, but it's
just look at N0. It tells you everything you need to know, assuming you're not retuning.
well, okay. Well, we need to maybe I need to better understand that because it's
Okay.
again I don't if N0 is all I need, then I can substitute it for what I'm for what we're
Right.
doing
The
with
front,
Kiwis.
the front end gain is constant because it's manual. And N0 is going to be smooth over, as I said, the range around whatever you're looking at.
Yeah.
Happens to be the sample rate.
Yeah.
It could be wider. I can change that. But
Yeah.
it's looking at the bin center, around wherever you're tuned. And with the front end gain constant, then any changes you see in N0 are going to be real noise changes at the antenna.
Well, but
What does
we
it
need
mean when the signal to noise ratio is infinite?
Oh, it simply
Or S
means
over-
that there's no signal. Because it's SNR. It's not S plus N over R. It's SNR. Right?
S
So
over
in theory, with
N0
no-
also input too?
Yeah,
S
S over
over
N0 is simply not scaled by bandwidth. It's scaled to a 1 hertz bandwidth, right? So if you look at it's S over N0 and SNR, the difference is going to be equal to the bandwidth in decibels. You can see the number right above it.
well, how does
The
N0
add up.
N0 never goes to 0? So how do you get infinite?
Well,
in
no. N0 is the noise. N0 is in all the textbooks. It's the noise spectral density in absolute terms, it would be dBm per hertz, right?
Yeah.
That's the noise level. Okay. Now I don't actually know what the front end gain is. So instead of saying dBm, I simply say dB
Yeah.
per hertz. Right.
Yeah.
It's relative. I mean, you can calibrate that if you want. You can put a noise source in the front end and figure out how many dBm that really is per hertz.
Yeah. But I think his question was, how does it go to 0, infinity? Because
the SNR or S does not include the noise. It's S plus N over R minus 1, right? And then I take the log of that. And the log of 0 is minus infinity.
Okay.
Right. So in theory, with no signal, the SNR is 0, or in decibels, it's minus infinity.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
So that's because
if I was just counting the total signal plus noise over noise, it would be 1. But
Yeah.
then I subtract 1, you get 0, and log of 0 is minus infinity. Right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only reason
Thank
it
you.
bobs around is because I'm averaging in noise as well. It's noisy, right? It's actually hard to estimate because it's
Yeah.
noisy.
So, but there are multiple signals in there too. So it's
Yeah, and what you're looking at is the total SNR. I mean, the radio doesn't know about the signal, right? All radio knows, Radio D knows is the bandwidth of what it's tuned to, and it also looks at the bins around the bandwidth that it's tuned to, and it finds the bin with the lowest energy. Okay, regardless to where that is within the 16 kilohertz that you're tuned to, and then it says, "Oh, okay, that must be noise level." Now it can be fooled. I mean, if you had signals all the way across the whole thing, it would be fooled. Or if you tune it, for example, to a digital TV signal, which is broadband digital, then it also would be fooled. It would think that was noise.
Yeah. Well, for our purposes, there are multiple signals in the whisper.
But it
WWV. Yes,
it is assuming that somewhere in that 16 kilohertz there's an empty bin.
Yeah.
That's just noise. It's assuming that, right? If that's not true, then the number it gives you is going to be erroneously high.
Okay. Well, anyway, I found that in addition that because you're not calculating the over ranges in the translation from 32-bit float to 16, I've been calculating them and monitoring them and logging them in Whisper Daemon, and I use SOX to identify that.
Oh yeah, you can do
Yeah.
that. I mean, you can also look at the output level that I target. I mean, my target output level is usually around minus 15 dB FS, but you've disabled that by turning off AGC.
Yeah.
But if the output is minus 15 dB FS, then the overranges are going to be extremely rare.
Well, surprisingly, if here where I have two whisper sound transmitters that are each of which are coming in at minus 40, I guess because they're coherent, right? That I'm getting lots of sample overages. I'm not seeing a RF overload event, but I'm running the input level at minus 15 dBFS per minute, for input,
Yeah.
but I'm seeing all kinds of SOX, PCM overrides.
Well, sure. I mean, my comment about overranges at 15 minus 15, that assumes a Gaussian signal. You've got a
Yes,
strong
it does.
interferer that
Yeah.
it's no longer Gaussian. So,
Yeah.
now
It isn't. Well, I saw that graphically demonstrated here with in my test setup. So,
yeah.
I don't know
I'm
that's
at
a
my-
real. You're
I'm
your
at my
destination.
destination. But,
Okay, well, I'm glad you participate in.
Yeah. Also, comment on damaging the clock. That's a very interesting discovery. I didn't even think about that. But I wonder about a Zener diode that would clip the input to 3 volts. 3.3.
There's the diodes are already there. The diodes
Well, but
aren't.
no, you said the diodes pulled up the supply. If you had a 3-volt Zener ground on the input, that might protect.
They're all. I'd leave this. Clint and Glenn are the experts in this area, and I'll leave it to them.
The only drawback to that is I don't know what the capacitance of these diodes will be. But anyway, 73. See you guys later.
Okay, Phil. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks. I might say 73 as well because it's getting late over here.
Oh yes.
So,
okay. Okay. Well, I hope I didn't. I seem to have driven off most everybody, but I hope people found it. Those of you who are 888s, I think, hopefully found this useful. So but it's true. I don't know that the grape receivers are so sensitive or subject to these kinds of overloading and other impairment events. But it seems to me that they might be. I don't know that I think we've uncovered that the sound cards, some of them are pretty far off. The clock frequencies are pretty far off by our standards. And I don't know, about if you're monitoring for overrange on the audio input, sound card samples. But anyway, I hope you're seeing that. That's stuff that we do monitor and think important in order to. And I'm trying to figure out how to communicate all of this information to along with the grape information. Does the grape database include a kind of options for identifying problems, with the receive system or the samples within the receive system? Because I'm getting SOX telling me that Bill, for example, I have SOX run across some of your files, pops up and says that there's a significant number of wave file, PCM wave file overloads. So the audio gain needs to be turned down in radio D, even though your RF front end isn't overloading. So it's knowing that if you're going to use this for future, this data in the future, I think you want to have some way to go and look and see whether there was any errors present in the recording of the data. The quality of the oscillator, how accurate is it frequency wise? Is there things that seem to me ought to be present in the database along with the actual wave file recordings. I don't know. I'm gonna log this stuff. I'm gonna put it up on the Grape account, there'll be a text status.txt or status.log file associated with each of the recordings that hopefully somebody would find useful. I don't know if it'll make it into your digital RF database, but it seems to me like it ought to. Okay, I've burned everybody else, including myself, but I've been pretty busy with a bunch of things that I think are relevant. Hopefully you guys feel are relevant.
Well, I'm keen to get the
On QRT. Good night.
those audio files. Sorry, start looking at those files that Mr. Demon is saving of WWV out of the RX 888 and see
Well,
how we can
you,
get
you,
those
you
uploaded to the
eh,
University of Alabama database, and then also do independent analyses too. So I know I got a bunch on my I've got tons of it on my my computer here.
yeah, I think your computer is, I think, filled with probably
Yeah.
weeks of WWV recordings. I think, please, let's see, am I?
Well, and I also wanted to look at, I know I have recordings of the solar flare or whatever it was that happened on at the end
Yeah,
of December.
yeah,
And I wanted to go back and look at those. But what I did
yeah,
not realize was that the FLAC files that you were recording were compressed and that I needed to decompress them. That's
yeah.
the part that I was missing because I was trying to just look at them as regular FLAC files and it wasn't working.
No, they're compressed. Well, you've got the from the 9th. When was this you
The
only
flare was
have
the 30th and 31st or something like that, right? Like at
oh,
2100 hours or something.
did you move those files off? Didn't you
I
move
did. I
them?
moved them, but
Okay.
I still have them. I
Are
have
they
them all.
are they mounted? I don't
No,
see.
they're not mounted.
Okay, so they're not
No, they're on
accessible
a
from the.
they're on a network
Okay.
access
Well, it'd
storage
be
device right now.
it'd be good to mount that onto your.
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm looking. I don't see a
Um,
network file system on that computer of yours.
no, I just did a like an SFTP to copy them all over.
Yeah. That's what I figured. But
But
you can have, if you have a network file server, then you can define it and mount it and access it just as part of the Linux file system on your i5.
yes, and I will. I'm in the wrong. I'm doing too many things at once. I'm trying to look at magnetometer data. I'm trying to look at this this
Welcome to the.
WWV data. I'm trying to look at Whisper data. I'm trying to do too many things. Well, but I think what you've given me though is now that I know that it was compressed. That's the problem I was having. I was getting an incomprehensible difference between the beautiful graphs that Nathaniel was producing with wave files that you'd given him and
Okay.
what I thought were the similar files. So now that I know that that's the problem, I can fix it, I think.
Yeah, what I've done is, let's see, how big is your, well, you've got enough memory in this so that you can just decompress a whole 24 hours into shared memory. They've got a 16 gigabyte dev SHM RAM drive, and just decompress it all into a folder there. You can get 24 hours into there and do whatever you want with it. It'll be 5.8 gigabytes, 1440 files.
Yeah. No, I think.
Well, I'm really great to have you working on this. That's great. And you were going to be, after, me, and Bill and the Dave Schwartz by WWV. You're one of the other sites you've been up, and you're a very stable site, right? You're not going up and down. So
yeah, and
that's
I was really pleased with the change in the total number of spots and unique spots and things reported after I put those shelving filters in.
well. Let's see.
That's just like
What is your
one step in the
there's,
in improving
yeah,
the
let's see what,
reception.
yeah, if you look at your, if you stop sharing here, we can look at your site, Michael, and let's see, where is it? AC, this one, I think. Yeah, this is that same program,
Right.
and yours comes up right away. So WD9C just pops up this. So you can see now you have your input level is just right, about minus 15. You see a very low over range.
Yep.
So this is very clean. If you put more gain in front of this, if you add 10 dB, then you'd want to turn down the front end gain here by 10 dB, and you would get a few dB better noise figure than you get.
Well, what I have right now, just so you know, the physical setup is a shelving filter and about a 12 dB preamp.
Oh, you have a 12 dB. Oh,
yeah.
okay. Oh, then you have what you need. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Yeah, well, that's good. I think
And
let's
this is
see.
just a long wire. What that means that
It
the
doesn't.
antenna that's
Yeah.
connected. I have two RX 888s, right? And what's
Yeah.
happening here is for uploading to Whisper Demon is a merge. The antenna that's connected to the other machine is actually probably better even than this one. Interestingly.
Well, you can take a look at it. There's a WD merged, command, gives you a list of the merge logs. So we can compare your antennas. Let's look at compare them on, where's 20 meters? Here this file is 20 meters. So here's the merge log, and you can look. Let's go down to right now. Well, there's not much coming in. So this is probably, hold on, let's go up
20.
to daytime. We can page up a bit. Let's see. Yeah, let's go up okay, so here's where there's lots of 20-meter spots. So you see, you compare your 0 and
So 0 is a
2.
long wire, and 2 is a T3FD, a 200-foot T3FD.
Well, it is slightly better most of the time. You can see if highlight here. Can you see my highlighting?
Yep.
Okay. So what this column right here is the SNR that was posted to a WhisperNet. So this signal W6FRB, that spot, was posted as minus 15. Okay.
Right, from Kate, that the second
and the P indicates this is the one that was posted. Okay.
I got
so
you. Right.
that's where it came from. So you can see that there's,
the more P's in one column,
there's
the
more
better
P's
the,
in one column than the other, But you can see there are times when one receives it and the other doesn't. And surprisingly, it's surprising where you see this is minus 12 for this VE3, and it wasn't decoded at all by your other antenna.
Right.
Now, how could how could a signal be that strong on one antenna and not be picked up at all? You've got 20 dB of additional dynamic range there. So even if it were minus 25, it should have been decoded. Minus 30, it should have been a decodable. These are interesting. But anyway, these log files allow you to compare your antenna performance without having different call signs and so on.
Yeah, it's curious. The KA9Q2 antenna, which is connected to the separate machine, is superior overall. But it is still the case that the simple long wire antenna on KA9Q0 does pick up things from time to time that the T3FD does not pick up.
Well,
now you don't see it in this particular screen, but there are. If you go down, there'll be some other screens where it does, where it's clearly. Right, there's another. There's one right there. For
here's one
instance,
right here. It was 20.
KM4BL.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll pick it up. It'll be the stronger of the two signals.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
there's a certain amount of, I think, randomness in the decodability of things. And actually what's happening now in this current version of Whisper Daemon, I'm actually running the decoder twice, Whisper D decoder twice on each wave file. So it's doubled the CPU demands. This machine is so fast that even that doesn't really make a lot of
doesn't
difference.
bother it, right?
It doesn't stress the system, but on other systems, they are you can't even do that. You can't run the decoders twice because they just take too long. But when we're coming up here, you may see it. You'll see it'll run the Whisper D, and then it runs after that. It'll run Whisper D dot no spreading dot something or other is the name of the other instance. There's Whisper D's running, and you see the Whisper D spread no drift.
Yeah.
That's
Yes, good number.
that's a customized version of Whisper D that reports the spreading information, how much drift there was, how much Doppler shift there was on those Whisper 2 signals, which is a new feature and an important one to those of us who want to look at Whisper as a source of Doppler shift. So
Well, it actually raises a question, Rob, and that is, you know, I expect you have in your mind, if you don't actually have it formally in a list or something, of the stations that you know are disciplined. So both of these are XAAA certain.
Yes.
And so that you can do some of these analyses on pathways between, your whisper sound sites that are disciplined, any other sites, transmitter sites that are disciplined, and then these receivers that are disciplined, and actually get some pretty accurate information.
I have a spreadsheet shared, Google Docs shared spreadsheet where I've asked people to register, report their receive sites and their transmit sites. And as we approach the eclipse, I'm going to go and do that again. Another way of addressing this is for Whisper Daemon to actually look and gather statistics about the receive system and include that in alongside the other information. The spots, the extended spots, also include information about the site, the receive systems, and their operating conditions, and so on. So that there is a mechanism in place for extended spots to include the kind of information you're describing. And in fact, I just was in communication with the author of the Kiwi SDR, John Siemens, today, and asked him to add the external clock frequency report that is been entered into the Kiwi. Do you have any Kiwis? I don't know if anyone who's listening has a
No.
Kiwi, in which case it's not relevant.
I do
But
not.
he's
I have
changed.
one that's not being used.
Yeah. Well, the Kiwis have, and since Kiwi software version 647, the signal processing path has changed, and they decided to improve the audio filtering. There was some aliasing products that were being present in that, and so it has improved reduced the aliasing, so the audio quality is improved, but it changed the actual signal levels, lowered the signal levels by 4.8 dB because there's two passes of now CIC filtering, and he also changed the sample frequencies slightly so that the audio there's some audio errors that are inherent in the clocks that he chose. The Kiwi clock runs at a a frequency that is not an integer multiple of 12 kilohertz. And he's changed that offset once again so that it's at a different error introduced, audio error. Now these errors on the order of 100 to 200 millihertz, which are of course undetectable by the human ear, but for us measuring Doppler shift and WWV, those are so dramatic as to render our data unusable. So we absolutely have to have the frequencies spot on to the 1 millihertz. And the we need to know what that frequency is, and if people don't put the right frequency in or don't tell the Kiwi what frequency external clock is, you get garbage data. I mean, by our standards, garbage data. So unfortunately, there's no way to know the clock of the being fed to the 888. So it's a these are the kinds of problems that that you start to have to address once you start getting into deployments. You need to know how a site is set up, and
That if we, I mean, your very mention of that though strikes me as being something that would inspire a design specification for the Clementine, to ensure that kind of reporting is
yeah. Well, how does the
in.
climate? Yeah, how it's what it suggests now. This conversation has just stimulated me. I realized one of the really important things about that the Bogner doesn't provide us, use of the Bogner, is there's no way for a whisper daemon to query the frequencies that the Bogner set to. I don't think there's a documented programmatic interface to the Bogner. And that's a problem, because if somebody sets the Bogner to the wrong frequencies, and I do it all the time, then your system won't run, or it'll stutter, or it'll do things that are you'll spend as I did an hour trying to figure out why is my Kiwi not tuning, or why is my 888 not decoding anything. So one of the advantages of John Ackerman's GERT and is that you can talk to it over the USB port. It's just you can ask it to tell you its status, which will include all of that information. And then Whisper Daemon can validate and make sure what is the external clock frequency. And
Well, there are Linux. There are Linux programs that talk to the Bodnar, and I'm not sure whether they can't be.
They're GUI. There's clearly a way to do it. There's a Linux program that does it, but it's a GUI program, and I guess I could go in.
No, there's a CLI.
There's CLI. Yeah, that's great. Okay.
In Linux, I'm sure. I'm not sure about Windows, but in Linux,
I don't care about Windows. I don't care about Windows. Well, that's good.
Almost, there definitely is for. So, to your point, whatever gets designed into Clementine, it still might be possible to actually do some command line queries to Bodnar to find out for sure what's going on.
Well, hopefully the Clementine is going to include the GERT as part of it, and the GERT has this controller and with a USB communications port on it.
Yeah.
So
you just have to make sure that your Bodnar is plugged into the computer.
Yeah. Well,
one way to run a Bodnar is to actually have it just plugged into a USB power supply, but you have to plug it into the computer that Whisper Daemon's running on.
Yeah.
But there are C programs that communicate with it. In fact, I'm pretty sure that John Gibbons included some of those tools on the little Raspberry Pi image that is running grapes.
Okay.
Not that he necessarily uses it in real time like you are kind of proposing, but to enable setting up the Leo Bodnar
Well, yeah,
appropriate for the great purposes.
it's not only the frequency it's programmed to, it's the quality of the satellite, the number of satellites it's tracking. I was only this weekend that I got an email from a user of the KPH system saying, what's going on? The signals are 30, 40, 50 hertz off of low on this Kiwi. And so I looked at it, and there was no RF GPS RF going to the Kiwis anymore. And the guy, they didn't go out there on Saturday, but one of the guys who went out there and says, yeah, it looks like, looks like a squirrel had lunch on the cable and just ate his way through the cable from the GPS puck antenna going into the house, into the building. So, but I was completely unaware of that, the loss of, which makes the KPH data kind of useless to us. I mean, the spot counts are okay, but Doppler shift is no good unless you have unless you have GPS lock.
Right.
So I have to go out there. I guess it'll be Saturday after next, and climb up on the roof and repair the GPS antenna that was up there. But it's a pain because I'm of an age when I don't like climbing up ladders. So
Yeah, I hear you.
having fallen off of one, and well, actually off of a roof, and seriously broken my left leg about 8 years ago. But since then, I've been leery of heights.
Yeah.
So, but I'll do this one. I mean, I can do it safely, but it's kind of a pain. Anyway, yeah, I mean, that's another component of this. Not only should you be sure that the RF isn't overloading, by getting those data, but you also want to make sure that whatever is supplying the clock actually is not just free running. And how good is how good a track is the tracking? I just, I realized I wasn't doing that, and I need to do that. I include monitoring that and logging it, and potentially, generating emails or something from the Whisper Daemon server to inform the user, hey, you've got a problem. It's overloading. Your GPS antenna is gone. Whatever. I'm not
Right.
getting a RX 888 from the other computer that I expect. What's happened to the other computer? In your case, your second 888 system. Anyway, your big challenge, I think, is going to be trying to get the noise level down at your mom's house. Right? Is that
Right. Well, I got two things going on there, Rob. One is an antenna, a plan for an antenna, and I think I'm preparing a proper balun, or actually unun, to down sample, or to alter the impedance, I should say, of a long wire. I'll probably be able to put up a couple of long wires oriented orthogonally, and then feed those to the RX 888. I've got a mini Bodnar there. I won't drive it too hard, so I'm not going to stress it.
Yeah.
I have a terminator built in, and as I said, I got last week one of these B-Links, and I think rather than I'll still work on trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the orange Pi that I brought up there last time, but I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I have the B-Link set up and get Whisper Daemon installed on it, and then take it up to Fargo with the 888 and a new antenna. The antenna is what I'm going to be working on for the next few weeks to make sure that that's good, so that whatever this spurious thing that was happening with the orange Pi is, we haven't answered it yet, but at least it won't plague the system. I mean,
Let's hope you don't uncover a different problem, but yeah, well,
well, there probably will be. I don't know,
I said, well, do the best you can to stage stuff down there. Glenn is a great, and I've now tried to absolutely completely stage everything, every cable, every power supply, everything, stage it before you go out to a remote site, and then take a spare of everything. Because
well, you know what happened when I was up there I had staged it. I had two different antennas ready to go. An on the ground loop and a dipole.
Yeah.
I had the Orange Pi. I had the 888. I tried both things. I was looking at it, but what I had not done was what we did on Tuesday when I was in Fargo, or Wednesday with the Whisper Demon group online. And Clint was there looking at it and saying, look at these spikes in the output and look at that drop, that crazy change in the signal to noise ratio and so on and so forth. The noise went way up, the output went way up. There was clearly every 2 minutes this wild fluctuation.
Yeah.
And I had not paid attention to that in the staging. I had not paid attention to it. That's when that came into view. And I was looking at it and I tried all the ground loop.
Yeah, I know you were trying everything.
Elimination things and so on that I could do with what I had there. Now, in the meantime, too, I also I got a little spectrum analyzer and some probes, RF probes, those little portable things that I can take up with me. And I got this new Ryzen 7. And so as a computer, at any rate, at least maybe I can eliminate the possibility that Orange Pi was the source of this. I'm still not confident there wasn't some leakage through the GPSDO antenna or something. I don't know.
Well,
I'll be staging it here as best I can, trying to put together a complete system so that it is ready to deploy.
That's good. Well, that's good. Well, that'll be interesting. I'll be interested to see your results from staging it at your house ahead of time. That was
my brothers, I have two brothers. My sister lives in Fargo. I got two brothers that live down near me, and the three of us are going to drive up on Sunday before my mom's birthday on Tuesday and surprise her. And while we're up there, I'm hoping if I have this staged and prepared properly, all I am going to need to do is plunk it in the basement, string the aerial out, and turn it on. And it'll be good to go.
That's what. Hopefully it'll work better this time. Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. Let me know how I can help you in that process.
Well, what I might need is for you to log into this Ryzen and just install Whisper Demon the way you've done before.
Yeah.
And I'll just send you the details.
That's good. Well, it'll be great to have another site up there with the Ryzen on it. That'll be a lot. You bought a 7. You splurged.
It was only $250. Well,
250,
only. I mean,
really?
It was I don't know, some kind of deal. I was very surprised.
That's which CPU is in it? A 5700?
It's it may be a 5700. I can't for sure off the top of my head. Yeah, Ryzen 7, maybe it's 5400. I can't remember. It's out in my garage.
It's I was thought that Ryzen 5 I bought wasn't going to be able to handle KFS, and then when I discovered the fan problem, it was pointed out to me by Clint and Brett. I went out there and changed the fan settings to max. So this is the B-top out at, and now this is yours, of course, your i5 or whatever, it runs even faster, but this is 50 channels of receivers, right? These are 4 antennas, each of which has, and plus a RX 888 tuned to, with 14 bands. So there's a total of about 50 receiver plus band being decoded by this thing every 2 minutes. And you can see it hits, 100% there for long periods of time. And it only gets up to 50C, 50, 52C. So,
Yeah.
but before I turned up the fan, it couldn't finish. It couldn't,
Yeah, that fan thing is weird, isn't it?
well, it's just that, yeah, so that's, that's why I've told everybody, if you really ought to turn the fans up. But of course, then people who have the Verizon in their shack say it's fan so loud, and of course it'll wear out sooner too. But I don't.
Right.
That's a. But I think I'm also getting a few more spots. You can see this is KFS with 4 antennas, and I'm getting I'll get from that last one there. We got what do we got? 79 spots that we just uploaded in one cycle. And in the daytime, it'll go up to 130 spots per cycle. So it's
Well,
it's really,
yeah, now I have a question. What I occasionally look at is Whiskey Alpha 2 Zulu Kilo Delta, which does these worldwide reporting rankings. I don't know if you're familiar with that site, but
I certainly, yeah, that's Bill. I mean, Jim Little's site. And
so I
he's,
sometimes just check into that to see, how high or low I am on the
well,
list. And
the really the best of those sites is Phil Barnes, a VK7JJ site. So if you whisper.rocks
Whisper
and
Rocks, okay.
you say this is whisper.rocks is the and if we go and look at, let's do a search on your call. Let's see.
AC0G, Alpha Charlie Zero Golf.
Did I have it? I guess I haven't done a search on you, so I better I have to type you in. Okay. I haven't, so this is all bands for the last hour. Okay. There you go. That's your all bands last hour. And you can see get colored things. So this is, I find, a very good index of the performance of your site. Is you can see you in the last hour you picked up 1,158 spots. Down here at the bottom where it says total spots.
Yeah.
So that's so you can zero in. You can see that you've picked up 2 low 630 spots, and yeah, you can see where they were from. You didn't go very far on 630. There's only 2 of them.
Indiana
Here's
and Wisconsin.
here's your 160 spots. Here's your 80 meter. 80 meters is pretty much open. Let's see what's on 10 meters. So 10 meters is you're picking up a few 10-meter spots in the last hour. So so this is he also, if you go back to search, if you go back to the home page, okay, click home here. He has top spotters. Click on top spotters and you go to this page. And you can get a top spotters by spot count, right? Sorted by spot count. And so John, who runs this, so these are all the top ones are Whisper Demon sites. This is John Mellencamp. I don't know. He's a German guy who has a vacation home in the Canary Islands. He's the top spotter because of physical location. This is Tom Paratori in Long Island. He's number 2. Now you can sort. These are sorted by the number of uniques, so different call signs that were reported, but you can sort by the number of raw spots. Generally, they roughly go together, but you can see my KFS spot is number 4 worldwide.
Yeah.
In terms of number of spots, it isn't in terms of number of uniques. I'm farther down because I'm out here on the West Coast where I don't get all those European stations.
Well, AC0G is down at 24.
Yeah, you're doing pretty, yeah, if you're down here you are. You're down here at number 24.
Yep.
So, but you can do things like an advanced search and say, I want to search for all of the, well, here's all the Whisper Daemon 3.1 sites, and I'll apply that and look in the last 24 hours. And you can sort. So these are people running Whisper Daemon. I think I might not have you in that list yet.
No,
So,
I'm not in there.
okay. Well, anyway, I could add you to the list, or you can just look for um, sites that are running software version. You can do all kinds of filtering here. Here's sites running Whisper Daemon 313.
And I'm number 9.
Okay, among them. Or you can do the geographic sort. Who's on the east, just show me
Yeah.
people who are on the East Coast. And I think I did this for no, that's a different one. And I was looking NHGA, there it is. Look for grid locators, E and F. So 24 hours in these. So these are, North American. Basically, you're number 9 in North America. You see, this allows
7.
you to
7.
Oh, I'm sorry.
AC0G.
I was like thinking of Bill. So here you are, number 7. This is another member of our Monday Cat Time group. He's near you in Missouri. He's out in the very rural area. He does remarkably well out there. And here is Bill.
That's Bill. Yeah.
Okay, that's Bill. He's not,
Number
he's
17, that's Dave Larson. 17 is
yeah.
Dave Larson here in
There's
Columbia.
So so you can quantify the performance and also by sorting by if you do on a sort by band, you can compare yourself to other nearby and see if you have a problem with, on certain bands, especially you'll see people kind of go up and they don't do well on 10 meters or something and
Yeah, I
15.
did like number 4,
Yeah,
AC0G.
yeah, there you are. You're number 4 on 10 meters.
10 meters.
And I said, this is John Taylor down in Costa Rica. Uh, he actually doesn't have a particularly good receive site down there because he's on the north slope of a volcano. So anyway, uh, here's, these are almost all these people I know, and I have remote login to many of those. But this suite of Whisper Rock sites is really the premier way to investigate
Okay, cool.
what's going on. The data that it uses is a clone of the whispernet.org data. I cloned it into a much faster database. And so these pages query my database, not directly to WhisperNet, which is why the searches are so incredibly fast. You can.
Yeah.
So that's but it's a good place. Let's see here. I move you up and get you up. A B would be A C 0G there. So it's easy now for me to. You can look at you can say, okay, what are you doing on how well are you doing on how I want to see if you're picking up any 22 meter spots, for example. There you got. There's the 2 guys doing 22 meters, or let's see what the map is. Yeah, there's 2 guys that run on 22 meters, and you got them both.
Mm-hmm.
So you can very quickly do queries and see how you're doing. So you can look at your own site, or you can compare yourself to others. You can look at that. You can do any kind of SQL query to filter
Good.
on. Whisper.rocks. That's
Yeah.
okay.
I got it.
Okay. Well,
All right.
Who else? I
How
haven't
much?
managed to drive anybody else, but it's I think I'm kind of beat here. I didn't.
Well, don't burn yourself out, man. You got to stay.
I've
You know,
got. I just got to get. I want to get this feature in so I can get you and everybody else uploading those 24-hour recordings. And
well, that's right. I do want to. That's a point of
so there's.
significant interest to me, so we can contribite to that
Yeah,
eclipse
well,
monitor.
if you're interested in, if this interests you and you wanted to do a little extension, is to look at those wave files and see how you
Yeah.
could create a wave file that just had I forget the two frequencies, so the two WWVs, 800 hertz and kilohertz, I think, are the two tones that differentiate whether the signal is coming from Fort Collins
Hawaii or
or
Port Collins.
Hawaii. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you could, if I'm sure there's a way to run socks and do it all in a single command line. You tell it to trim off the first 59.2 seconds, then down sample it or frequency shift it and filter it. It's probably a single SOX command that would do all of that. And in fact, you could tell that SEX is such a incredible thing. You can give it a list of files of the 1440 files and tell it do that to every one of them and create a single wave file on the output. I bet you that the whole thing that Nathaniel wants to be able to differentiate between Fort Collins and Hawaii all can be done in a single line of a single SOX command.
That was very useful developing FreeDV or the codec 2 stuff.
Yeah.
For Dave Rowe used it for. There's some particular things that it does that I don't think anything else, at least days, just with sampling frequencies and things that were, there just wasn't any other tool to do it with.
Yeah. Well, I'm just overwhelmed with. I'm very impressed with it. It's there's just the man page is 50 pages long, with all of the options and such. So that's the challenge, is learning how to use it, not using it and not its performance. So anyway, hopefully, Dave, you've gained some the discussion about the external clock input would inform any work you would do on the design.
Yeah.
And
I know that that John Ackerman's thought a good bit of that from his side of the divide.
Yeah. I think in your case, as there's the thought is in the Clementine that you would incorporate the GPS as part of the design in some way. Having a separate GPS module. I blew up one of my Bogners just because it was a separate GPS and it had a barrel connector, and I plugged the 12 volts that was going into the transmitter into the mini Bogner, and bam, there's a $175 device that's worthless. And so the more it's not even so much that it improves anything, it just configuring things when you go out in the field and have to set up something, the fewer cables you have to connect together.
Well, that's the intent, is that both the John and Glenn stuff fits into the same box. Effectively are the same, or one device.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Where the control lines, for I think the Bodner, the 5351 is generally controlled by I²C at some level. And I think that where the control lines go, I haven't had a talk with him about that in a while, but we need to catch up.
Well, anyway, did them. I'm managed to. Hopefully, people found all this interesting. I hope it's useful to the group. I'm hoping that we'll soon have the many sites contributing to the great project. That's my goal. Okay, well,
That is cool.
yeah, well, you certainly will be one of the first, Michael, and let me know if I can help you. But I'll let you know when I start to load software onto your new versions of Whisper Daemon onto your machine. So,
Did you see the link that Dave put to the LGPSDO? There's a GitHub site that has Linux code that
oh, there it is.
is
Oh,
a library of utilities to talk to the Bodnar devices.
It's not necessarily the only one. It's,
It is not the only one, but that's just an example of several.
Well, it's
so that if you get people the right instructions and say plug that Bodnar into the computer,
yeah,
then you can talk to it.
well, I don't know why it wouldn't be possible to have the Bodnar interface or the interface that's equivalent to that in John's and Glenn's device.
Oh, they do. They're
be accessible from the front, from the
Yeah.
sync connection, the USB 3 connection on the because actually, since it's I2C, the FX3 chip actually has I2C output, and you just have to write your program in a way so it talks to it. So we could have a utility that would do that, or a script, that would hopefully not keep people from blowing it up.
Well, this is
Blowing
very good.
Blowing it up is bad.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. I've bookmarked that so I can go back and okay. Well, I think that's all for now. That's all for me. Any other
Thanks, guys.
questions? I'm available.
Stimulating discussion.
Oh, well, it's nice to have. I appreciate your interest and
Likewise, and all your effort too.
Okay,
so
good.
In fact, I'm just going to plant this seed. I think I've mentioned it before. There's stuff that I feel like I would like to be able to do on my own machine, that I don't have to hit you for. I know that you're developing things all the time, and so for you to install that is way easier. But if at any point it becomes if you see a pathway where you can offload some of the stuff that you actually feel like you have to do hands-on to somebody else, let me know.
Well, I think that what I've had at times is the need to support people who are newly installed systems, Whisper Daemon, and I've been through some sessions with new people where they're eager, intelligent, but unfamiliar with this environment, understandably. And so it would be great to have kind of a Whisper Daemon, RX 888, Clementine support group, i.e. you, who would be available to people to get on. It could give you access so you could remotely log on to their systems like I can onto yours. So you could, gain access to them and then I better understand what their problems are. And I think that's one of the, that you can't oversimplify this whole establishing a receiver site. I mean, it's a complicated, there's no formula for this. You try to reduce the number of variables, but you put in an orange pie and suddenly oh, there's a new problem that you've never seen before. And you don't know how to solve it. So, you know, you just plug in the Ryzen. I say it's a great thing. Well, I didn't realize it needed the fan turned up.
The
You know?
fan, right?
You know,
Right.
and so there's all of these little things that we learn as we go through this. And in the case of the Kiwi, it took us several years to get this body of knowledge about how you use it and deploy it properly. And I think we're not at the end of learning how to do this with the 888.
Oh,
And
no. And in fact, the
and
888 business is probably, not only it gives us some current boots on the ground facility to listen to the RF,
yeah,
but in some respects, I think what we're learning is more important for the gotchas and the design parameters for Clementine to make sure that we
well,
get that thing set up so that it doesn't have some of these things to worry about.
yeah. Well, I think so. I hope so. It's part of the reason I spend time on this is I think many of the things that we learn about the 888 deployments are relevant to the Clementine. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Good night,
Really
guys.
really late for you guys, and I'm slowing down here. So it's okay.
Cool.
Be in
All the
touch.
best.
Maybe you join me on Wednesday if you're not working. So it's
Yeah. I think I work tomorrow. It's Wednesday morning, yeah, and I'm going to meet Dave Larson and Dave Witten Wednesday afternoon, but the
okay.
teleconference is in the morning, so
Well, if
yeah,
you want to,
I'll be there.
Well, if you want to be here, I don't know what we'll be discussing, but it seems to go on. Clint will be telling us about the
I always
repairing
learn a lot from
AAAs.
Clint. He's
Yeah, Clint and
he's a
Glenn are
fountain of
my,
knowledge. He's
yes,
incredibly smart.
he is so experienced and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And as is Glenn in a different way. I mean, they each have their, Glenn is a little more of the theoretician. And whereas Clint is more a hands-on practical person, orientation.
Tear
So
it
it's
down and see
great to
how it
have
works. Yeah.
it's great to have both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
anyway,
Good
take
night, guys.
care. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Michael. So guess